feel like it's never going to get better. But stay the course and remain vigilant and remain intentional. Like, stay the course. No matter what, just stay the course.
You're my second person, so I got to get back into the swing of things.
Do you think, man?
You are now listening to The Gradient Radio, an open space to converse about creativity with creatives. And I am your host, Antonio Knoxx. And today we have a special guest. Today, our guest is the founder for Thank You, Come Again, who is creating design events for the people. Today, our guest is Markus Gold.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
Show, bro.
Love it.
Hey, man. Thank you for taking some time to come and for us to have this conversation.
Yeah.
To allow people to get to know you better.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been a journey. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just like everybody, man. So for the people who may not know who Markus is, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Markus Gold. I'm a DJ, creative entrepreneur, slight graphic designer. I kind of dabble in, everything that comes with throwing events and stuff like that. You start off doing something, you kind of have to learn how to do it yourself before you can, really begin to pay other people and know what you want. But I started off, producing, making music at an early age in middle school. And then that turned into DJing when I got an adult, followed in my father's footsteps and, turned into a business. So, here we are, almost 12 years later, and I'm doing it full time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I definitely know, because we had many talks, and I knew you were inspired by your father.
Yeah.
When it came to the DJing, specifically, what was it for you that came to the conclusion that I want to do this?
Even that was a journey. It's all been a journey, man, because it's I grew up. Excuse me. I grew up in the house, right? And my dad had turntables, vinyl, in our our basement room. It was a whole wall, probably biggest room of just vinyl, right? So I can remember being 6, 7 years old and going downstairs, and my dad would be practicing and making mixtapes and stuff like that. And me and my brother, who was about 3, 4 years older, we would sit there and we would listen and stuff. And we would run around and do typical stuff. And around in 4th grade, there was this thing called ORF. So it was where I guess the music teacher selected musically inclined children and essentially made a band out of it.
Okay.
So, in elementary school, it's, 300-400 kids in that grade,
Yeah.
So, the band was only 6-7 kids. So we got to travel up to Stafford, up in Nova and perform.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of a contest thing, I think. But I was too young to know what it was.
Yeah.
So, and I was on the percussion, so that was dope. And then going into middle school, my brother he picked up DJing. My brother picked up DJing first, so my dad got him this thing. It's called DJ in a Box. It was probably $300. It was these belt-driven turntables, which they essentially mean they don't have as much torque as direct drive turntables, which is what I use.
Yeah.
And he had a crate of records that my dad had gave him, and he would just practice all the time. And so when he wasn't there, I would sneak in there and mess with it and stuff like that. And then he'd get mad because I accidentally scratch a record or something like that because he'll know y'all was in there. But and then I just kind of leaned into doing music production for a while, and I would make songs, and I would let people around the school hear them and stuff like that. There was this thing called SoundClick.
Okay.
Back in the day, a lot of people don't remember this, but
SoundClick was before SoundCloud.
It was SoundClick, and they had this thing where they had rankings, and a couple times I was in the top 10 of the rankings on the SoundClick and stuff like that. So that was from music production, and then dude, you graduate, you don't pursue what you should, you know, and you just get into the workforce. So I got into the workforce. I still made beats and stuff like that, but I got into the workforce. My dad still just doing what he does, throwing parties and DJing. And then one day, dude, like, I was like, man, I'm gonna go in here and see what I can do. Went into the outhouse because he had moved everything in the outhouse now in the shed. Went out there. I just started messing with stuff, dude. The next thing I know, like, I just got into it and I just like locked in and practiced. But I mean, all my life, my dad like took care of us by DJing.
Yeah.
You
Really?
know, all my life.
So he's never had like a traditional job,
Never.
like a traditional 9 to 5. It was always
It was always spinning. I mean, he would do like different stuff here and there, but the main money making thing would be like DJing or like centered around nightlife and stuff like that. Like he owned a club when I was like 6 or 8 years old, and then they sold it. So, but it's always been centered around just like DJing.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. So like, I mean, I grew up with it, like literally, you know.
Yeah, facts.
You don't think when you're a child that you're going to do, you know, that, you know, because I mean, you know, it has its literally its ups and downs. Like, I mean, obviously he wouldn't come home till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, like, you know, on the weekends and stuff. So, and he would be running around during the week, just, you know, just hustling, you know, just, you know, and he would do sound and stuff like that. Like he had a bunch of speakers, like, it was just a grind, you know? So you don't think that like, yo, I'm going to do that. Like, yeah, that's what I want to do, you know? Because you get to see it and you're just like, no, this is a grind. This is a hard work. But, you know, I became an adult, man, and learned that that's what I was destined to do, you know? Like, that's what I was talented and passionate about. And so I started like practicing like crazy 3-4 hours out of the day, like for 3-4 years straight before I even took one gig, you know, because I originally wanted to be a like a DMC DJ, which is like a, you know, they do the tricks and stuff. They music competition, know how to do scratches and stuff. So that, you know, you had to practice like crazy. You got to like look at videos and all types of stuff. So I originally wanted to do that, and then it just turned into party rocking, you know. So years later, man, I just kind of did that and then started Thank You Come Again just last year, and now we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we actually get to Thank You Come Again, obviously there was a process between you realizing that you had this passion and like you putting the work in to actually start making money from like doing that. Right. Did your father give you the blueprint, or was it something that like you just went out for yourself? And
man, you know, you would think that, you know, you're following in your father's footsteps, so that he would be like, yeah, you got to do this, you got to do that. Like, you know, I'm going to introduce you to this people, blah, 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 blah. Nah, man, I had to find my own way, you know? He was kind of busy doing this thing and stuff like that. Like, you know, and I think because he knew it was a grind, he probably never wanted me to actually really get into it.
To do it, yeah.
You know, he knew like, you know, it had its own struggles and stuff like that. Because I mean, back then it was harder to be a DJ than it is now. Everybody can be, you know, DJ. At least that's what they say. Yeah. You know? So nah, man, it was literally me figuring out like what I wanted to do. And it took a long time, you know, it took years. It took, you know, 5, 6, 7 years before I got to a point where I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. And this is where I want to take this talent and stuff like that. Like, you know? Yeah. So, no. Yeah, you know, wow. It was just me.
That's pretty interesting. Because, you know, like, I would imagine that because he saw that you had a passion for it. Yeah. And I'm sure in many ways he kind of supported you. Yeah. But I just would imagine, you know, I think about like the relationship that Bronny has with like LeBron, right? And how he kind of like mentors him in a sense, but also he allows him to like, you know, go his own path. I was just thinking because with your father being a DJ, he probably would have gave you, you know, the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like as like a black creative of, you know, my age, I'm in my mid 30s going on, you know. So like a lot of our parents that are our age, they're boomers, you know. When they was growing up, it was about, you know, taking care of your family and working, you know, like for the majority of them, it wasn't about chasing dreams, you know. And so like they showed that work ethic and stuff like that to their children.
Yeah.
And so like if you never figured out what your talent was or what you wanted to do with life, you just, you worked or you went to school, and that's just what we were taught, know? And there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to, taking your talent and actually making something of that, you kind of got to step away from that thought process,
Yeah.
And sometimes your parents ain't going to get it, they're not going to see it, but, eventually, when you actually show them like that you can be successful with what you do and stuff like that, then they come around, you know?
Yeah. So in many ways, it seemed like your father was, even though he's a boomer.
Yeah.
It seems like in many ways he was kind of like an outlier.
Oh yeah.
In terms of, because he didn't have the traditional 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Because growing up, obviously, like we live the lives that we live, right? We don't live the traditional.
Yeah.
In many ways, it is becoming traditional because like so
many
people are doing it.
Yeah.
But beforehand, you speak about like the non-traditional and your father being a DJ.
Yeah.
Did you ever speak to him about like what made him go in that to do that?
No, I never asked him, but I can specifically, I feel like it's just, it has to be something that it also like kind of like resides within me, is that, I think it's probably a time where he probably realized that, he had something special, you know what I'm saying? He had this, it might have started off with him just doing something to survive, you know what I'm saying, to make money or something. But after a while of doing it, he probably realized that, hey, I'm good at this. I like my thought process when it comes to this is different. I mean, he was throwing parties and doing, different type of stuff that nobody else was doing. Like nobody else was learning how to do sound and, also being a DJ and like,
Yeah.
And he learned how to do all that stuff and he just was consistent with it, and I think it was just a drive and discipline that kind of pushed him to it, and that's one thing he did always teach, like me and my brother, is about, work ethic and discipline and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's what it was, I think it was just a drive to like survive, and then you get so good at something, then, you just do it,
Yeah.
Especially if it's becoming profitable.
So, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Hey, man, you just really spoke on why fathers are so important.
Absolutely.
Like in a household.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so important, man.
And being influenced, by him. That's incredible.
Like not even talking, just
facts,
action, just working hard and just like, just being, a father, just being there, and supporting us with, what he just happened to be really good at doing.
Yeah,
that's how I'm where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
So I know you said you used to go into like your brother's room because he was scratching. Did he continue down that path of like becoming a DJ, or did he just choose something differently? Nah,
man. Like, I always think about that because he was good. He was good. Like, he was really good. And he kind of had that same type of like burning type of desire that I had to get good, to be like nice, like, to learn the scratches and tricks and stuff like that. He had that same type of desire, but he didn't like the business. The business aspect of this is, I mean, it ain't sweet. Like, you really got to be kind of like hard nosed to be able to deal with people and to deal with the type of business, because it can be cutthroat.
Yeah.
So he didn't like the business. He ended up just selling his stuff, and then ended up just, getting into software engineer.
Okay.
Yeah. So and once I started doing it, I was just like, nah, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Like, like this is me. I didn't care about the business so much because I was just like, well, I mean, like it comes with it, but I love doing this. So like, I'll take that.
Yeah. So when you went from having a passion to like actually working it, and then understanding there was like a business component of it.
Yeah.
Speak about like your trials and tribulations dealing with like the business aspect of it, because I know like
it's tough.
I know when I used to do photography or videography for like promoters and
Yeah,
like
man.
they are like different kind of people when it comes to like money, bro.
Yes,
like,
it is, bro.
speak to that. Like,
well, like it's tough, man, because there's always a sense of risk that comes with like being an entrepreneur, and doing things. You could either take the less risky route and deal with like, people like promoters, stuff like that, which essentially, means that you will be working for somebody, you know what I'm saying? So you have to make up your mind if you want to be a person that's, kind of like letting their destiny be, determined by other people, or if you're going to like determine your own destiny. And that just goes across the board for anything, So eventually I started, just throwing my own parties, or I started, being a part of groups and stuff like that didn't think like that. They weren't about the like status quo. They're about like, destroying those barriers and like being better,
Yeah.
So, it took years, bro. This is my 11th year. It'll be my 12th year next year of just spinning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not even spinning full time. Like, I was spinning full time. I quit my job like 5 years ago to do it, right? And this is so crazy because this is why it's like important to have like a certain mindset when you're doing this. It's because like, and specifically in a city like this, because it's so small, the market is,
city, yeah.
Oh man, the market's so small. So like, you don't have too much like leeway to like miss opportunities and stuff like that. Like you got to have a good plan and you got to like stick to that, So the first time I quit my job 5 years ago, right? I was like, man, I finally know what I want to do in my life, man. Like, I didn't go to school for this when I should have had, and like I should have pursued music. I didn't do it when I graduated high school. I got into, the workforce, and I just worked these terrible dead end jobs of just like warehouse work. I'm 28 now. Like, boom, I'm a go for it. Quit my my full-time job, and like it was summertime. I was like, yo, like I'm killing it. Like I'm good. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, I can do this. Like still practicing. I started making like videos and stuff like that. I was like, no, I'm good. Like this is gonna be great. Man, I didn't have a plan set. Like I was just like, yo, like
just went out there, yeah.
I just went out there. I was just like, I'm good. I'm talented. Like it's gonna be fine. Like, people are gonna hit me up. Like I'm great. Man, didn't have a plan set. The winter came, all my gigs dried up. Like quick, bro. Like, and my parents had told me not to quit my job. Right? But I was so like headstrong. I was just like, no, I'm gonna do it. Like, and I stopped talking to my parents because they didn't believe in it. Right? Which I don't think it was a whole thing or they didn't believe in it, but I think they were trying to protect me from a bad decision.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I had this undying desire to just like not just let my life just like waste away.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it, quit the job, winter came, lost all my gigs because it was just cold. Mm-hmm. Things just dried up and I wasn't throwing my own parties. I was just gigging, Lost everything, dude. I had no apartment, lost my car, like everything, dude. I was sleeping in my storage unit, which was like my studio because they had like power in them. It was rough, man, but like I kind of like, it was like a necessary thing that had to happen because I from that, I developed this thing of like whatever it takes because it was just like, I wasn't giving up. Like, even though like things were just like terrible at the moment, I wasn't giving up. I was just steady, just like, nope, nah, it can't get any worse. It'll get worse. And I'll be like, well, it can't get any worse than this. Like, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then once things started getting better, I was like, well, I already went through that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm fine. So if I ever have to go back to that place, I can, because I already did that,
Yeah.
And eventually I ended up having to go back to my parents' house because like, I was at the end of my rope. Dude. Like,
Facts, yeah.
And they didn't give me too hard of a time. They were just like, yo, you got to get a job and everything like that. So, and in the moment, it seemed like, you know, that I had put it on hold or that like I had failed, you know? But I mean, fast forward like 4 years later, because then I got a job and I just was working that. But the same thing kept happening. Every time I get a job, I just be like, man, like,
just can't do it. Yeah.
it's so much more, like, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know? And so I decided this time, I was like, I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to make a solidified plan. I'm going to make, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but I'm going to back up that plan by doing X, Y, and Z. Like, you know, I'm not going to just like go out here willy-nilly, like, you know, like, no, it's going to happen. So I quit my job the second time, which was last year, right? And I talked to my mom. I was like, Mom, like, it's no point in me working this job. Like, because they have a restaurant now.
Okay.
I was like, yo, I can come in here. I can be the bar manager. I can learn how to bartend, blah, 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 blah. She was like, all right. So I went and did that, right? Went and did that. And then that's when I started Thank You Come Again. And Thank You Come Again just took off, you know?
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, everything needed to happen the way it happened, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for the journey, man, you know?
Yeah.
It turned me into somebody that I never thought I could be, you know?
Yeah. I think that's what, you know, failing teaches you.
Yes.
I read these 2 books based off of failing and how pivotal it is to the journey.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't always succeed in life, because if you are constantly succeeding, constantly doing things that put you in like a great space, you're never going to learn anything.
Never. It's
usually the setbacks, the losing of the jobs, the drying up of, you know, the things that you thought were going to be there.
Yeah.
It teaches you so many things, and those books like really changed my perspective, because we hear and just in culture, like, failure is not an option, right? Like, failure is an option if you want to be successful.
You want to
like,
be great. Yeah.
If you want to be great, because you learn so many things, and it seemed like even though those things happened to you, you didn't allow it to stop you, but also you learn from those experiences.
Oh, yeah, man. Like I never read up until I decided that I was going to pursue, you know, this full time and try to make something of this. I never read. But then when I quit my job and I was like, yo, I need to get some self-help books or something. Like, I need to, like, you know, make myself mentally strong, like, you know, in some way, shape, or form. The first book that I ever read front to back at 27 years old was 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. By Amy, I can't remember her last name. I think it's like Amy Horton or something like that. But it was the first book I ever read. And it's just crazy how, like, you read something like that and then it just slowly starts the process of changing your mindset, you know? And so from that point, I just started reading more, and I started kind of just engulfing myself in different content.
Yeah.
And then my mindset just changed. You know, I just wasn't the same person anymore, because like everything that I took in was about being better and growing.
Yeah.
You know, and becoming mentally strong and stuff like that. Like, and so when it came time for, you know, me to go through my period of struggle and failure and stuff like that, I had spent, you know, some time to build up some mental strength. So like going through that, like, it didn't seem so bad. I don't know. It just seemed like I was like, yo, this is what it takes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you this. So like the first time we met, I didn't think you were a DJ.
Yeah.
I thought you were like a photographer.
Yeah.
Or like a model, because like at first, obviously, like we came together through like the Film Out.
Film Out. Yeah.
Collective. And when I started following you, when we started following each other, I looked on your page. I was like, they was telling me, he was like, he's a DJ. I'm like, I didn't see the DJ work. Right. I thought you was just like a model, like, or just like a photographer taking pictures. It completely changed my perspective of like creatives at the time. Yeah. Because like before, you would only hear creatives just doing one thing.
Yes.
And that showed me like you can do multiple things.
Yeah, bro.
And so I can imagine at that time you were just doing a lot of different things, right?
Oh man, dude, like always doing just a bunch of different stuff. Just, just trying to essentially just, extend my palette, my creative palette of like what I could and couldn't do. I think that's one of the keys of just being a creative. It's just like you don't want to hold yourself back to just creating one thing. You want to learn how to create multiple different things,
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn how to do videos. I wanted to learn how to take pictures. I wanted to learn graphic design and stuff like that. I wanted to learn all that stuff because I was just curious. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was just like, man, nobody else is going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I kind of developed over time is it kind of became like a sick obsession to like do things that I know other people weren't going to do. Like I when I started running and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like when I started running, I said, oh, yo, I'm going to run, for 30 days straight, in the middle of summer. Like, like it. And, no matter what it is, no matter if it's 95 degrees outside, if it's raining, I'm running, know? And I can remember getting like DMs and stuff like that. Like, yo, like how you outside running? It's hot right now. Like, but like I did it because I was like, yo, ain't nobody else gonna do this.
Nobody doing that, bro.
Yeah, like, but yeah, man, like just essentially just doing everything that I can to just be a better person mentally, emotionally, across the board, physically also,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can imagine definitely running in 90-degree weather is definitely a test to your discipline and your mental state. Because I believe I'm mentally strong. I don't think I want to be to the point of being mentally strong to run in 90-degree weather. Yeah. That's different, bro.
Yeah, man. Like I just listened. There was another book I read, David Goggins, You Can't Hurt Me.
Okay.
And he's a retired Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And he was just talking about just like how his life was just terrible and just complete just trash. And one day he saw like a commercial for the Army or something like that. And he was like, yo, I'm gonna do it. He said he was overweight and all this other stuff. And he had been doing he was like a exterminator, He said he dropped that. He said he immediately went to the track and started running. He said he signed up for an ultra marathon, probably the couple weeks after, right? Said he said his shins and stuff were cracking, stress fractures and everything like that. I mean, it's just crazy. But I read that book and I was just like, man, look what you can do. Look what you can do with some discipline, man. And directed discipline in certain areas, man. You could really do some crazy stuff, some world altering type stuff. And that's what I always wanted to do, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think his life shows that if you make a decision for what you want for your life, then you can ultimately change it, like you said, with the discipline and just doing things that feel uncomfortable for the time being.
Yes, bro.
Will change the whole trajectory of his life, because we probably would have never heard of him if he never made that decision.
Exactly.
Right? With him being disciplined and
yeah, man. Yeah. It was crazy, man. I just love stuff like that. I love stuff like that. I love anything that's not just normal. That's not normal. I love it, man. Cause it's easy to be, typical. We all think of the most typical things. It's easy to think like that. When you get to a point where you never think like that, oh man, but I think it comes also with its own, problems and troubles, because it sometimes can become hard to relate with people, and you find yourself kind of
facts,
boxing yourself in your own kind of mind sometimes. And it's a challenge, but I think that a lot of creatives and a lot of people that are really good at what they do, you know, that's something that just comes with it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's definitely something that I also like, you know, struggle with and stuff like that. It's just like, you know, kind of being, you know, more, you know, outgoing and stuff like that, you know, but I wouldn't change it.
Facts. Yeah. So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we were a part of like this collective called the Film Mob, and that's how we kind of like connected.
Yeah, shout out Bruce.
Facts. Over about like 8-9 years ago, something like that. And then that's when I started to see that like you were like a DJ. Yeah. You know, because we would have like different events. Yeah. Whether it was like, you know, the cookout to the player haters ball to just like many different type of things that we were doing. And I definitely also like witnessed just kind of like your trajectory in terms of how like we were in this collective. But then the first party you did outside of that was I believe the Red Light District. What is it?
Red Light Reggae.
Red Light Reggae. Yeah. I was like, because you know what I've learned of DJs is like somebody hires you for an opportunity and you just go to like the gig or the opportunity, right? So when I saw that like you created like your own event, I was like, oh, that's pretty fire. I was like, I never even thought of that. Like, because obviously like as a creative from the standpoint of like a photographer or like a videographer, like if I want to make a film, I'm gonna make a film and then I'm gonna show it somewhere.
Right. Yes.
Right. So like I'm going to create that event
to show people. Right. Yeah.
So like when you created that, I was like, oh, that's a game changer. And then to see like how that has like evolved from like many different types of events over the course of the years. Can you speak about like the inception of that?
Man, Red Light Reggae and just, I mean, if we're being honest, Red Light Reggae is the brainchild for Think You Come Again.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. You know, that's the first party that like I ever threw and actually put a extreme amount of attention to detail and behind. Like, it's Red Light Reggae. Okay, Red Light Reggae. We're gonna make the whole place red. You know, we're gonna red lights straight like that. Oh, we're gonna get, you know, fog machines, and we're gonna make this like a Sean Paul video. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna make this look like a Sean Paul video as much as we can. And just knowing that, you know, how music is and stuff like that. There's certain timeless like genres and stuff like that that will always be able to do certain things. Reggae music, dance hall, you know, with the, you know, a surgeon of Afro beats and stuff now. But for the most part, you know, reggae and dance hall, that's always going to make people dance. That's forever going to be like dance music for Black people. Yeah. You know? So we were like, well, you know, me and Nico were like, hey, let's throw this party. He asked me to help him with it. And with everything that I've learned, you know, over the years, know how to do sound and lights and, you know, dabbling in graphic design, I was able to, you know, put the event together.
The whole thing.
By myself, you know what I'm saying? So I put the event together by myself and, you know, we put it out. You know, we started just, you know, charging people like $5 or whatever. You know, then, you know, 100 people will come, 150 people will come, you know. And then I learned from that, like, you know, people need stuff like this.
Yeah. Especially here.
Especially here because people aren't doing things like that here. You know, it's the typical thing where you go to the club and you get whatever is at the club. You know, you got to pay $40 to get in the club because you came at 12 o'clock. You know, they kind of doing this, doing that, you know. But yeah, man. Red Light Reggae was literally the beginning. We started off with just small place, Strange Matter, you know, 7,500 people. It grew to, you know, another spot that was like probably like 150 people. And it just kept bouncing around and growing. And that was the brainchild for Think You Come Again, because I would have never believed that I could charge people to get into a party that I was throwing, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, it grew and grew into the point where I could just like start doing like creative stuff with it, you know, like, and really started like really get into it and making it its own thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great that like you didn't stop yourself.
Mm-mm.
Like you had an idea. Yeah, I had an
Yeah.
idea, and like you didn't allow the thought of like a negative thought to creep in your mind.
Yeah, man.
To stop you.
That's challenging, bro, because there's been plenty of times where I wanted to. I wanted to like, you know, not do parties and stuff like that and be like, I mean, doubt is always going to be there. You know, defeating that doubt is probably like is one of the biggest challenges as a creatives, you know, is like, because we're always just like, man, are people going to like this?
Mm.
Like, you know I think it's cool. I know I think it's dope, but I mean, you know, like you said, as a photographer, you don't make things just for them to sit in the vault.
Yeah, facts. Yeah.
You make them to share with people.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
you know, you want, you know, the perfect example with this podcast, you want to help people change their mindset in their lives and, you know, the content that they, you know, decide to actually intake, you know. So you make these things and you put out, you know, you make these parties and stuff for people to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And you hope that it is just that.
Yeah.
But you don't know, you know. I mean, there was plenty of times where it wasn't that many people in there and stuff like that, you know. But, you know, you keep going because you feel like what you're doing matters. And you feel like, you know, there's purpose, you know.
Yeah. It seems like you've just discovered like a cheat code in many ways, right? Because, like I said beforehand, I never thought that someone who's a DJ, who DJs can create their own thing. Yeah. Right? Like, oh yeah. It was either like someone, like I said, like someone hires you to do an event. Mm-hmm. But in many ways, it's like, I'm sure you would still welcome these opportunities, but like in many ways, you can just throw
whatever
any
I want to
event
do.
and basically pay yourself for it. Like, how was that mind shift for you? Like when you said it earlier, like I can throw events and like charge people. Yeah,
the mind shift was crazy because, you know, I thought the same thing. I thought that I had to just like get gigs and stuff like that, you know. And man, and to be 100% honest, it wasn't until I started Thank You Come Again that mindset changed. You know, I still thought that way. And then when I started Thank You Come Again, I realized, okay, like, through all these years of me doing this, I've built up, you know, a certain type of following of people that, you know, look for me to do things. And I've yet to like capitalize on that following of all these years of spending and stuff like that. Yeah. And then when I started Thank You Come Again, like they showed me that was there, you know? And it like, that's probably like one of the best things you could feel is that like, oh no, people really rock with me. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know, so it's so crazy, man, because you never know how the journey's going to go.
Yeah, facts.
You know your intention, you know, and my intention has always been to, you know, be the best, you know, to be great at what I do, you know, and to be creative and not be like every other DJ and not be like, you know, these cats to just pick up and just say, oh, I want to DJ now. Like, no, like to be extremely intentional. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just last year I started Thank You Come Again. And like, it's like all that intention just, you know, came to fruition. Yeah. Just like that, like boom, you know, and it just like, it seemed like it's kind of like the tunnel was just dark and then all of a sudden it's just like the light just appeared, you know, like, you know, after 12 years of just riding down this tunnel, it's just all of a sudden just like, bam, okay, oh, now I see. Yeah. Like I see where I need to go. I see what I need to do. Like I see what all these years of work have, you know, essentially blossomed, you know, so you know, that's how my mindset changed once that light showed me. Then I was like, okay, this is the direction. But what drove me was just intention. That was it. Intention and discipline was just driving me to just continue to do it, even though I didn't know what the end goal was. Yeah. You know, I just knew that I was good at this and I knew that this is what people needed. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So, yeah.
So there's so many things I want to like respond to that. I think the first thing was like, the journey aspect. Yeah. Right. So I think what I've seen, what I've learned from people is that like most people are too hesitant to start.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what's going to happen on the journey, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone has like this idea of, not everyone, but some people has this idea of what it looks like at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of us have like end goals.
Yeah.
Right. But what I've learned over the course of years is like the journey is like the most important thing rather than like the end goal.
It is.
Because of like what you learn on the journey, right? Like you said, what you learned on the journey was a culmination of the red light.
Yeah.
Right? Because you learn lighting, you know sound, you know like graphic design. Yeah. You learn all that stuff in the journey to get to like that light bulb moment. Like, oh wow, like I have all of these tools that I picked up on the journey. Yeah. That I was able to create like this body of work. Yeah, man. And I get that like 100% because like even like with the gradient thing, right? Like it's like I've been doing this since I was 14. Yeah. Right. And the knowledge that I picked up across the years from like video to like animation to like editing and then like website graphic design and all that and bringing it all together to be able to create this thing. Yeah. Right. Like, can you speak to the journey?
Man. The journey is like, it's so crazy, man. If I was to sit here and then tell people like, because, you know, we want the answers. We want the answers to 5 years from now. We want the answers to 10 years from now, you know, regardless of how, you know, prepared you're going to be. You can never be as prepared for what's going to come. Yeah. You know, because, you know, that's just life. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just life, you know, like you can have the most thought out end goal ever. Like I'm going to be this specific thing, but the journey will change your mindset. That might change your end goal. Yeah, yeah. You know, especially for you know creatives. I mean, you know, especially for creatives because the journey is the most important part as a creative. You know, because that essentially determines like your path as a creative. You know, that determines what you learn. That determines you know what industry of you know creativity you're going to be in and stuff like that. And the best part about you know the journey is that there's so many different paths. You know, like there's so many different paths and none of them are wrong. You know, they all just have their own different lessons and, you know, own different things that you learn with it and stuff like that. Yeah. But you gotta be willing to take that journey and take that journey with intention, you know, with the intention of, you know, I'm going to be this or I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Yeah. You know, that might not be the end goal, but you just having the intention to continue to go forward, you know? Yeah. Is what will eventually get you to whatever the end goal is, whatever path you're supposed to take, you know? Yeah. So yeah, no, I love the journey, man.
Hey, man.
It's not fun going through it sometimes, but you know, you respect it.
Yeah. It's, you know, ultimately it comes down to like the mindset thing too. Yeah. It's like, another thing that I learned was like, when it comes to like anything that happens in your life. Yeah. It's never like what happens to you. No, because things are always going to happen to you. Like, life is always going to happen, right?
Life is going to life, man.
Life is going to life. Yeah. But what happens after that is based off of like how you respond to it.
Yeah, bro. I kind of got in this kind of like we went into my obsessive type of thing, man. I when I was going through my stuff, you know, my rock bottom moment, and it was changing my mindset. I developed this thing that was like, you know, anything that it was like a accountability thing for me because I was like, yo, anything that bad that happens to you, you can go back and rewind and account for one decision you made at some point in time that it was like a chain reaction that caused X, Y, and Z. Yeah. You know, but I mean, it was a thing of making myself accountable for anything that happened in my life. You know what I'm saying? And the other end of that was that, okay, if this was one decision that I made, then that means I can always make another decision to fix X, Y, and Z. Yeah. You know, that could cause a positive chain reaction. And that's literally the journey. You know, is literally a set of decisions that we make that cause chain reactions that's literally what the journey is.
Yeah.
You know, you got to love it. Like, you know, you just got to know that nothing is ever going to stay the same as long as you're, you know, moving forward.
No, that's one thing. There are many aspects of life that are constant, and change is something that's always constant.
Always.
Like we've seen it throughout history.
Yeah.
We've seen it locally, and we see it like with our lives. And that's why, you know, you hit it on the head. It's like a choice that you make changes the trajectory of your life.
Yes.
Whether positively or negatively.
Yes.
Right. But ultimately it's up to you how that happens. Which direction you go is based off of the choice that you make. And I always tell people, it's like, you know, what someone does to you is their karma. It's like how you respond is like your karma.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So like, you know, just using do the right thing, like someone step on your J's. Yeah. Right. Like,
what you gonna do?
How you gonna respond to that? Right.
Respond to that? Yeah.
How you gonna respond to what a person did to you?
Yeah.
And that just comes down to like the choices and how that has a compiling effect. Throughout everything.
Yes.
So what was you've been on this journey for like relatively almost 12 years.
Yeah.
What was that? Do you remember that like light bulb moment when you had the idea to do Thank You, Come Again?
Yeah, it was a thing of where I had just quit my job. And man, it was so crazy because me quitting my job was even crazy. Like I just walked out. I worked at my job for 4 years. I just walked out.
Really? Never went back?
I was just like, yo, went right in the office. I was just like, yeah, man, I think I'm done. And the dude was like, he was laughing. He was like, I was like, no, I'm serious. I'm leaving. I'm not coming back. I walked out, dude. Never went back. Never went back. Never responded to any text messages. None.
People, they hit you up and it's like,
yeah, it was just like, yo, like, what's up? Right? Like, and I was like, man, like, I'm not coming back because, like, if y'all fire me, y'all not going to be like, hey, man, you can hang around for a couple weeks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, like, if
that's immediate.
Yeah, if y'all fire me, that's it. So I was just like, man, I'm over this, man. I quit that and I immediately got to work. I immediately was just like, all right, bam, like, what's the best way to make money, but to also not compromise my creativity? I said, you know what? I'm going to start something. You know, this city is like kind of like been needing something in the nightlife that our generation and people our age and people in our demographic can go to and appreciate. And I said, you know what? I'm going to create something. I don't know what it is. I sat there. I was just thinking, I was just like, man, I need like a name or something. Like it has to be a name. And I was just like, I went through quite a few terrible names.
It's a process. It's a journey.
It's a journey. And then it just came to me. I was like, Thank You, Come Again. I was like, that's dope. I was like, yeah, that's dope. So I was like, all right, Thank You, Come Again. What is it going to be about? I was like, no, it's just going to be just a space for people like us, like me, like, you know, that doesn't want to go to the hood stuff, that doesn't want to go to the super duper, just like top 40 and just, you know, they don't want to do that either. They just want to be in a place and feel good, catch a vibe, listen to good music, get some drinks and go home. You know? I was like, okay, bam, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to different places and I'm going to see if they're willing to let me get a residency for every week, and I'll bring, you know, my crowd, and, you know, they'll bring X amount of dollars to the bar for your businesses. And we end up going to the first place went to a Switch on Broad Street, and it was cool, kind of small, but I mean the first 2 parties we did, slam packed, man. So much that they had to move us down in the basement. And then we was doing it there every Friday. And every Friday, man, I was, you know, when we talk about the journey, I was making the flyers. I was doing all the promo. Like, I was doing it all. I was doing it all, man. And I was DJing the whole night, you know, like, and I was DJing the whole night, man. Like, but man, when that happened, those first 2 parties that just were jumping, and then like seeing how people value you when they recognize that you can bring, X amount of people to a space.
You're an asset.
Oh man, dude! Like a asset that I didn't even realize was that much of an asset until you got people that own 3-4 buildings in the city that are just like, hey man, we're also opening up this part. Like you would think you could do something here.
The opportunities started to flow.
Opportunities start to open, man. Opportunities that I didn't like. I wasn't getting looked at like that from owners of spaces and stuff like that until they recognized that I had, a crowd. I had a following,
Yeah.
But that following was built over years, years and years and years of, doing those gigs and, just being that DJ that's different, like you said, like being the DJ that looks like a model or like, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That their content is polished and stuff like that, being the DJ that just is in different spaces and that's doing different stuff, I built a following off of that. So they're giving me opportunities that I never had. And so I took Think You Come Again. And I was like, you know what? All right, fine. I'm going to take this opportunity. And, it went to another place and it built from there, Unfortunately, the business is always going to be the business. So, but it's the journey, man. Everything is just a journey because it's like, even where it is now, like with the Broadberry, like the reason the Broadberry is a thing is because the business that I had with that owner of those buildings, like cheated me out of my deal, and instead of like just being like, damn, I was like, okay, I got you.
Moved to the next.
Went over to Broadberry and was like, hey, how much? Boom. And took a huge risk on that, dude. Because, it's not cheap to do things at the Broadberry.
Sure, yeah.
And if you can't bring a crowd or you don't believe that you're going to bring a crowd of, 400 or 500 people, then you could lose money.
Yeah.
And a lot of money,
Yeah.
So I took a chance, dude. I took a huge chance on that first Drake night at the Broadberry. And like last February, I took a huge chance on that. Because like I said, he had cheated me out of my deal. So like I was on like my last couple $1,000s and I had put it into Drake night. And it popped off. It popped off. And I was like, yo. And then that's when it really set in stone. Like, okay, this is really something that I need to like really invest my time, and everything. And this is something that the people want, So, and I've also I've determined that this is where I can place my creativity and do different things with. So yeah, that's literally what happened with Think You Come Again, man. Like it's crazy because I was just literally just trying to throw parties and survive. That's literally all I was trying to do, but doing it more and more and more, I was like, man, like this is something that the city needs. And this is something that I think I want to be able to do for the city. I think I want to be able to change the nightlife, in the city.
Yeah.
And that became my goal.
Yeah.
No,
there's so many layers to that.
Yeah. There's a lot of layers.
It's about taking opportunity.
Yeah.
Risk.
Ooh.
Being able to transition when things don't go your way and taking another risk.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you take a step back and like, say if it wasn't like your life, right? Mm-hmm. Like say it's like someone else did what you did.
Yeah.
Like we would admire.
Yeah.
I can imagine you would admire a person like that because they took so many risks. And so, like, I was obviously like when it came to like, the things you've been doing recently, I was on the outside looking in. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So like to be able to hear it much more extensively and realizing like you really took risk.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's no great reward without great risk.
Yeah.
and you took a great risk, especially like when you put your money into it. Like, I definitely know I know about that. Like when you put your money into it, like, it's a risk.
It's a risk.
Like until a man parts from his money, then he's not serious.
Yeah.
You took a risk.
Yeah, I took a risk.
And that joint paid off.
It paid off, man. I remember like getting that check, man, and going straight to my parents. Like to my parents' restaurant and be like, see, Mom, like look
at this.
Like look. And they were just like, oh, you had that many people and you made that much money? I was like,
amazing, bro.
Yeah. You know, because it's just like only time they've seen that is when my dad done it, you know, and my dad has done it for, you know, their following. So to see like me now, you know, I have my own following and I'm doing it. It was just like kind of like a click for them. And then that's when they really just kind of like started like, yeah, okay, we see what you're doing. Like, you know?
Yeah. And the difference is like you're just getting started.
And
so
like,
I'm
just getting started.
Not only do you have like the years of like what you learned from like your father, your beginning, like you're just getting started. So it's like you've been doing this more than 12 years, really. Really. So it's like the possibilities. Not being afraid to fail, because like you, in many ways, you failed before and like you came out of that, and you didn't allow that failing to stop you.
Yeah,
it's
the perfect storm.
Yeah, like
it's literally what we talked about. Like all these things that could be looked at as bad.
Yeah.
You know, all these moments in life that could be looked at as bad, you know, shape you to bring something just amazing that you know is completely just otherworldly, you know, to a lot of people. And, you know, they don't like, we talked about it a little bit before we started rolling, but like how people don't know that it's you because you do what you're doing is just that crazy. Like, you know, like it can't just be one person doing all of this, like, you know.
Facts.
You know, but yeah, man, it's I love it. I love it, bro.
I love one of my favorite Jay-Z's quotes. I'm probably going to get it incorrect, but like the synopsis of it is just like he was like, the genius thing was like they didn't stop.
Yeah.
Right, like when it came to them pursuing like Rockefeller or just like their dreams and their passions, like despite the things that happen in our lives, despite the trials and tribulations, and obviously we know like what Jay-Z has become, right?
Oh, we know what
Jay-Z was like the genius aspect of that was like we didn't stop.
Nope, just kept going,
kept on going,
just kept going. No matter what happened, just you keep going, you keep going. Like, you know, like it's hard because, you know, to be able to determine if you should keep going or if you should stop is a tough process, man. And it comes with a lot of heartache. And I think every creative has had that moment.
Yeah.
Where you're just sitting there, you're just like, man, like nobody's really rocking with this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like why am I doing this? Why am I putting so much effort in this? And why am I taking so much time? And like, you know, am I going to be able to, you know, become what I want, you know? And you take those moments and those moments sit with you for, you know, maybe a couple of days or something like that. And eventually it pass.
Yeah.
You know, eventually it pass and, you know, maybe you use, you know, affirmations and, you know, maybe you meditate on it a little bit. But those moments are always going to be there, you know? It's what we talked about is how you get past those moments and what you do after those moments hit, you know? Yeah.
Hey, man, like, I think for you to like have this idea and then, you know, like you said, like the guy basically took advantage.
Yeah.
And for you to like pivot.
Yeah.
Like, and then and for you to see like massive reward because like you said, like that would have never happened as fast as it did.
No.
If it wasn't for like that particular situation.
Yeah.
But you also wouldn't be in that position if you would have never took the initial risk.
Exactly.
Right. You know, so like that's,
if I would have never quit my job, I would have never been in the position to essentially get into that position. You
right.
know? Like, you know, it's that chain reaction.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what you said earlier. Like,
yeah, it's that chain reaction of decisions, you know, and like the decisions that you make based off of those, things that happen in your life, like you could either go A or B.
Yeah.
Or you go see, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, which one are you going to do? And like, some of them is a harder route. The easiest route for me would have just been like to accept whatever he was trying to do to me. And like, hey, all right, you want to cut me short on this? All right, cool. The hard route was taking all my money and putting it into an event. Yeah. That was hard. And that's what I felt like I needed to do, There's no reward without risk, just like you said, man. So, I knew that.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared.
Hey, bro. Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You sit there looking at your bank account, you just like, oh, man, I was a nervous mess, bro. That gig. That Drake night, or that first Drake night at Broadway, I was a nervous mess, dude. I was just like, man, are people going to come? And then you get off on, and like I said, just like always, I did the graphic design, I did everything.
Yeah.
And then I got up on that stage, man. You look out at a sea of 500 people, and you just like, yo.
I know that shit felt amazing. You probably went off that night, didn't you?
Yeah, bro. Yes, bro. Like, I was just like, man, I could just remember just finally getting back home. It was like 4:00 in the morning, because like, we had built like a like stage design and stuff like that for it. So finally getting back home at 4:00 in the morning, I remember just sitting there, man. I got in the shower, man. And I just started bawling, man, because it's just like, never through any part of my journey of, 33 years of living did I ever think that I would be doing that for that many people. Never. I never thought that. Like, I never could have imagined. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I never could have imagined what that looked like. You know what I'm saying? I know we did like ABAC and stuff like that, but that was a crew of us.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's different. Yeah.
That's 8 of us, 8, 9, 10 of us all. This is literally just me. Like, this is just me putting this event together, pushing it, like designing different like elements and stuff like that. Like, this is literally just me. And I just remember just sitting there just like, man, this is crazy. Like, and just realizing just like all those decisions have literally brought me here.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, like, I wonder where, my decisions will take me from here. You know?
I mean, that's gonna be my next question, right? It's like,
what's next?
Like, what do you, obviously 5 years ago, you would have never thought about you would be in this position, right?
Yeah.
Because some of those ideas came in the latter of like those 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do think like, what do you imagine with having like this different perspective, right?
Yeah. Well, it's intention, like what I was talking about earlier, like the journey is going to be in the journey. What keeps you going is the intention of what you want to be. I still do have a desire to change the nightlife in Richmond, to have my own spots, to change a whole like district of Richmond and like it be the nightlife district or whatever the case may be, and it not be centered around what Richmond nightlife has always been centered around.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is right now for me, because I think that a lot of creatives, when it comes to being in this city, we kind of get we get down on ourselves about it, because this is a hard city to be a full-time creative in. Whether it doesn't matter what you are, whether you're a photographer, whether you're you paint, draw, like graphic design, whatever it is, it's a hard city to do that in, because, it's not a big city. People aren't here checking for, people aren't coming here, looking for anything like that,
Yeah.
So it's a hard city to do something like that in, but I think that it is possible. And I think that there's a other side to that, because it is a hard city. That means that a lot of people aren't doing it.
Yeah.
So that also means that it's open market.
It's an open market, yeah.
So that's what it is for me, man. I want to bring something to this city, continue to bring something to this city bigger, even more bigger, that, nobody has ever seen. And I want to bring, more diversity to it. Like I feel like there's just a definite, just a defined line of, this type of nightlife and that type of nightlife. And I want to create a space where that line is erased, where it's just, this is what it is. Everybody loves this, and it just really change it, and build just a nice warming place for everybody to just come out, have a good time, and, listen to different types of music, dance and stuff. Like, that's what I want to do, man. Like, that's where I'm heading with, Thank You Come Again, and just everything is just changing the nightlife, man. Doing what I've always done, but, bringing it to a bigger light. Yeah.
All possible, bro. All possible.
Absolutely.
What would you say to the person who is you, but younger? Right? Like, because the majority of us, when we first begin, like, we don't necessarily have like the mentors.
Yeah, we don't.
Right? Like when I first started, I didn't have any like local mentors. I when I started looking at design and stuff, I would look at like other people's work who was like, I remember I was following this guy and he was like in like Hawaii or something. But I never spoke to him. I just saw his work and I was like, man, this is like, this is the example of like where I want to get to.
Yeah.
But for the most of us, for the people who want to start, the people who want to be like you in a sense, not you directly, but you.
Yeah.
What are things would you say to that person?
Man, I think about this a lot, bro. I really do. Like I think about like what I would say to my younger self and stuff like that. It's a challenge, man, because I appreciate the journey so much. Like, like I appreciate it so much. And I think that's what I would say. I would tell myself, like, it's going to be hard. There's going to be challenges and it's going to feel like it's never going to get better. But stay the course and remain vigilant and remain intentional. Like, stay the course. No matter what, just stay the course. Like, it doesn't matter. Because, yes, the journey is a journey. I'm in this place right now. But there was moments where, I probably should have made different decisions than I did. And that probably would have put me in a different position. Maybe not better, but a different position. And sometimes I go back and I say, man, I wonder what, that journey would have looked like. Yeah. I wonder what that journey would have looked like if I would have made that decision, And a lot of that decision that I made at that point was because I didn't stay the course. I didn't truly believe in myself and what I could do. And there was no intention with that decision. So therefore, I made the other decision. So that's what I would say, man. I would say stay the course and remain intentional with what you want in life. Never, ever, no matter who it is, and I don't care who it is, mom, dad, it doesn't matter. Like, if you want to do something, remain intentional with that and be disciplined. Don't ever stop, don't ever. Yeah, that's what I say. Yeah.
Hey, man, I want to appreciate you coming out, bro. Like, this was a great talk. I learned like so many things. Like,
man. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
And I can imagine like other people have learned so much, bro. Like,
yeah, I kind of play Batman a little bit, but but no, man, I love it, man. I love telling my story, man. Yeah, yes, man. Absolutely. Thank you, bro.
For sure, bro. My name is Antonio Knoxx. That's Markus Gold.
Yes,
and this was the GRDNT Radio.